Welcome, everybody, to the Eagles Nest podcast. Thanks for joining me tonight. The date is May 29th, 2022. We are filming live from the San Luis Valley in southern Colorado, the UFO superhighway, right up Great Sand Dunes, right up the street. A couple meteor crater impact sites in this valley, and the UFO watchtower that you saw in the introduction coming up. That's all in the valley. Those pictures, some of those pictures are from right here in this valley where I am speaking from. But tonight we got Dave Scott coming up. We're going to bring him on in just a short bit. Just want to go through some house cleaning on some upcoming events, upcoming guests. Where am I going to be at? Where you can see me, and do a little humble book promotions, things like that. And then we're get into Dave Scott here right shortly. Can't wait. A good friend of mine, and just come up over the weekend. I will be on his show on Tuesday night. So this is following up a kind of a theme from last weekend, last Sunday when we had Jess Rogie on from Escape the Simulation. So we got kind of a host to host vibe going on, and I'm going to be appearing back on her show coming up soon. So yeah, these host to host shows, I have a lot of fun with these. These are awesome. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing how people got into it. Like, I love hearing each and every one of the ways that people got into this amazing work that I'm so blessed to be in, having this podcast, having the books and the sacred journeys within the church and everything. It just such a blessed life. And yeah, it's just amazing. So I love hearing other people's stories. But coming up next week, next Sunday, we got Jason Quick coming up. No doubt we're going to be talking about Egypt at some point, and aliens and everything else under the sun. Can't wait to hear his story. And following the next Sunday, we got Kevin Day. Again, he was the radar operator on the Princeton during the Nimitz incident of 2004 off the west coast, off the Catalina Island. The famous video of the Tic Tacs. He was operating the radar when that happened. So we're gonna get he's gonna be on the show in 2 weeks from now. And then following that, we got Ruben Langdon coming up on the 19th, on June 19th. He was a stunt double for Jake in the movie Avatar. He also is the creator and host of interviews with Extra Dimensionals on Gaia, and basically not getting too deep into it, but he talks to people channeling and talking to higher dimensional beings, and in a sense, you get to talk straight to these higher state beings through people that channel live on his show. So we're gonna have him on the 19th of June. And then coming up, got a few other slots I'm going to be filling up soon with some exciting guests. I spilled the beans a little bit last week. Not going to mention any more about it. If you listened last week, you got some heads up of people that might be coming up. So go back and listen if you want to get the dates. But I'm not going to let any more teasers until I got some definite dates put down. But let's see, July 10th, I'm going to be at the Stardust Fest in Golden, Colorado. And that's going to be right up there by Denver. There's a MUFON symposium going on in the same area. So it's going to be an interesting area. This might be a good area to do some sky watching around these two really high vibe events going on. But the event that I'm definitely going to be speaking at 11 a.m. on July 10th is the Stardust Fest. Again, that's in Golden, Colorado. You can find links. There'll be links up on our website within a day or so. Or you can just Google it, Stardust Fest in Golden, Colorado. It's going to be a one-day event. There's going to be bands. There's going to be high vibe speaking, and vendors. It's gonna be a great time, and the concert goes into the evening, so it's gonna be a good one. Maybe we can get Dave to break away from the symposium and come over and check that out for a little bit. And yeah, that's about all I got. Shout out to River Moon Coffee, rivermoonwellness.com. Go to Sacred Journeys Within, and let's see, you can go to Sacred Journeys Within. Right there's the website. That's my website. You can go to Sacred Journeys Within and find promo codes to get your first order going from River Moon Coffee. You get 20% off. So go over there and check it out at sacredjourneyswithin.com. Get that promo code and get going on this amazing coffee, River Moon Coffee. And let's see. Well, without further ado, I think I'm going to bring my friend, my colleague, and just a good brother of mine, Dave Scott, into the chat room. All right, Dave, how are you doing, brother? So, Dave,
hey, how you doing, bud?
Great. I'm going to do a short little interview for you, and they can check out the rest in the drop down box below the video. But Dave is the creator and host of Spaced Out Radio, started in 2014. 2011, he had an experience that really changed his perception on things, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But yeah, that initially spawned Spaced Out Radio, and now he's doing about 5 to 7 days a week, I think. Maybe not yourself, but your program is putting out a lot of content lately. And yeah, just honored to have you here. And I was on your show a while back, about to be on your show again. Honored to have you here on Eagles Nest Podcast. Thank you, Dave Scott, for being here.
Always a pleasure, Drew. You're one of the good guys in the field, and you and I have extremely different backgrounds, but I think one of the things that has kind of brought our friendship together is the fact that we both respect the field, we both respect the phenomena, and it's all about trying to piece the puzzle pieces together. And not everybody has the answers. You have a little bit, I have a little bit, your audience members have a little bit, and each one of us has just something to add to this flavor of the phenomena and the puzzle we're trying to solve here. So it's a great time to have you be on with you, and of course, in a couple nights' time, you'll be on with me, and we'll reverse the roles here. But I'm very much looking forward to being on with you on your show for the first time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. It's this has been quite a manifestation that just popped up. Great. I was talking to Grant, and this is I got into the story before, but I share a little bit how Eagles Nest became. I was on talking to Grant about 2 months ago, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to have time to put this on my program. This, that, and the other. Might be a while, and this. We had a great conversation, got really deep into it, and at the end of it, he's like, you should think about starting your own podcast. And when Grant Cameron says something about you starting your own podcast, you take note to that, And I was on Margie K on Onyx Network a few weeks before that, and she said, maybe not a few weeks, maybe a week or so before that, she said the same thing. So when it was like the same exact phrase, like verbatim, and I could tell it wasn't coming from them; it was like coming from somewhere else. But it was the same unique phrase that was said to me verbatim, and it just struck me deep, And this is Eagles. I had to listen to the universe, and now I've had some amazing guests on, and yeah, and it just keeps going with you, bro. Like it's an honor to have you on. Your icon. Maybe not in the United States, maybe in British Columbia, but no, I'm just messing with you. You're an icon all over the world, man. It's the way you treat your guests, the way your heart, your humbleness, and also your confidence. That balance between humbleness and confidence, I think, is an integral part in these days, in these times, because the history is rewritten. We're seeing it rewritten, daily now. From everything that's happening, especially in the UFO community.
Well, I mean, we're seeing changes every day, and we're seeing new people coming into the research area. We're seeing new people continue to try and figure out what's going on, whether they've experienced the phenomena on their own or whether they are just having a big time interest inside the phenomena in learning what is going on. And you know what? The more people we add to this, the better I think it is for all of us. Because look, there are some brilliant minds out there, Drew. They may not agree with your process, they may not agree with mine, but as long as this topic continues to gain leverage and open the minds of many people that are out here, I think it's a good thing. I think the more people we add, like I've added some new people to Spaced Out Radio recently and over the last few months, and they have been absolutely great. And they've been people who are experiencers, people who can really help push us forward as a maybe not as a business, but as a show that is entertaining and bringing knowledge and bringing everything that we want to bring to people. And it really is a group effort, and the more people that we are able to energize with this phenomena, with this type of conversation that is very, very real, I think it's good for all of us, man. I really do.
I do too, man. Like, I've spoke about it several times. It's no secret my viewpoint on this whole thing. My viewpoint, is the UFO is a smaller part of a much larger story that's unfolding. And if we can wrap our head around that, it's about consciousness. It's about evolution. That's my overall viewpoint. And it's and now it's starting to come out more and more. And I think and we're about to dive into this. We're gonna just get the monkey in the room out of the way, the Congress hearing out of the way. So we might as well just dive right into it. I heard them mention one time about dimensions. I wish I'm gonna go back and find that soundbite, but they mentioned dimensions somewhere in the congressional hearing. I was just blown away. Some of the stuff in it, I was like, man, I can't believe they said that. I can't, like the threat. That was a big thing that made me chuckle. I was like, man, this is like a cartoon that's playing out. They're starting to push the threat narrative, and but hearing him say dimensions, and it really struck me as crazy. Like hearing that they would bring that out, that this was even part of the same conversation. And they also they said, in the hearing, who knows if it's real or not. There's people say that they've witnessed organic bodies. They said we have no organic bodies or material, which I believe that. I believe there is no more organic material anywhere. I've never seen anything or touched anything. And I've had a lot of experiences. I've had a lot of sightings. I've had a lot of experiences with ET, but I don't have, some nail clippings from an ET or anything
Right.
like that.
Me either. Me either. Here's the big thing that, coming out of the conference, I was actually quite disappointed by it, but I could say this. Where my disappointment landed was I wanted more. I really thought they should have asked for more. I really thought they should have asked some tougher questions. And like I've said on my show, when you have Congress people there asking about, like here we go again, swamp gas, little green men, that's not getting the job done. That is showing that you're very unprepared for a public hearing. Okay, but let's look at the positives, because I took it very negative at first, but there were a lot of positives that came out of that hearing. Number one, the entire world woke up to the fact that the United States military is looking into UFOs.
For a
Entire
long time. For a long time.
Yes. Okay. And, up here in Canada where I am, okay, we saw the mainstream media coverage doing this. I personally did 5 interviews within a span of 24 hours outside of Spaced Out Radio talking about this subject to the mainstream. That is excellent. Not just because it was me, but that we were having that conversation. Okay. Drew, we saw people, talking UFOs in Europe, in Asia, in Australia. This was front page news for everybody. everybody. It wasn't the X-Files theme song. It wasn't the little green men with the laughing afterwards. The journalists were doing their job. And that's what we needed. That's what we needed to ask. That is what we needed to happen. Now, the unfortunate part about it is the mainstream media has never wanted this subject. They don't know how to cover this subject because for years they have poo pooed this subject as being fringe, as being tinfoil hat, and I say this from someone who worked at a mainstream newsroom for almost 10 years. Okay, so for people who don't know my background, I was a mainstream journalist for 10 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, from 1998 to 2007. And I can tell you, man, the mainstream media, when we would get in a call about UFOs or something along those lines, first thing we would ask is how much have you had to drink? How much how much hippie lettuce have you smoked? All right. All this kind of stuff. I also want to get this message out because it's very important, Drew. Okay. There is not a newsroom in North America that has a CIA operative or an NSA operative or an NRO operative or a military operative saying what can and cannot be sent or and reported on. Okay, there is a big misconception about that the reason why this topic gets no play is that newsrooms are censored for what they can run. No, that's not true. Let me tell you the truth of what goes on in a newsroom. News people are very fickle. They are very egotistical. They want to cover what is important to them. So, for instance, when I was in the newsroom, okay, and I mainly worked in sports, but when something big happened while we were in the newsroom, okay, we would gather as a team and we would figure out, okay, who's taking what angle on this? We never ever took UFOs seriously. All right, because the attitude of a newsroom is this: your average person who believes in UFOs usually works the night shift at minimum wage somewhere, doesn't have a dental plan, and believes every conspiracy theory under the sun. That is the attitude. So when all of a sudden one of those conspiracy theories comes true, unless that reporter journalist has an actual interest in the topic, they aren't covering it seriously. And they don't know how to cover it seriously. They don't know about Roswell. They don't know about Phoenix. They don't know Shag Harbor. They don't know Kecksburg. They don't know Falcon Lake. They don't know anything about this. But they now know about 2004.
They're lucky if they know Travis Walton.
They don't know Travis Walton unless they've seen Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Look, this is a reality of it. Okay, they have not been able to figure out how to cover this story. Now, some journalists are figuring it out. Some politicians are figuring it out. You look at Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee. There's a gentleman who wants everything disclosed since Roswell moving forward. You look at Mike Gallagher, who was on the U.S. congressional hearings. He was fantastic. He's the guy who got the Wilson documents brought in as evidence, even though those have not been proven. He's the guy who was asking about Malmstrom Air Force Base and the nuclear weapons that were being armed and disarmed by some sort of red orb that was hovering over. All right. You look at him talking about wanting or showing disappointment that the two gentlemen that they had in examination were barely able to cover any subject and really showed a lack of knowledge regarding the subject. They're supposed to be the heads of the program or the temporary heads of the program. So there was a lot of disappointment coming out of that, like I said, but we got a lot of good, man, and a lot of people are starting to pay attention.
I totally agree. 2 points. One I totally agree with you. For our community, say podcast and podcast guests, especially speak on the UFO subject, there wasn't a whole lot in the hearing that raised eyebrows on in that particular group. For the person turning in their morning news and a congressional hearing popping up, and they were expecting a weather report, it probably blew a lot of people's minds. Like there was a few things, the 11 near misses. I'm glad that, like, I'm glad these things are was said by the government, because there is a large group of the general public, to include a lot of our families. A lot of us have families that, I see my sister in the chat room. She's not one of them, but there's people in my family that has turned their back on me because of stuff I've talked about for years, and it's just it felt kind of good for that, the government, because I know there's a lot of people that are just at this point where they need the government to say, yep, there's ships out there. Yes, there's this, that, and the other. And I think, man, if that wasn't disclosure, like, if you need more than that, we can just label that disclosure. Like,
Well,
I don't know. I don't know what the definition is. I don't know what the mark we're trying to get to, but I think for the general public, that kind of just straight up. I mean, if the Nimitz footage that was released and stuff like that didn't already seal the deal, man, if you have, if the general public hasn't seen it, man, I think it should be displayed on the big screen in Times Square, just so the people in the rat race can just get a piece of it, and just hear one admission from the government, and but they're not getting down to the brass tacks of what this is. They're not getting down to the consciousness aspect of it, the magicness aspect, the woo-woo magic of it.
Can't yet. That's, dude, people like you and me, we've had our disclosure. Okay, we know
Personal.
it is, we know the phenomena exists. We know it's all interconnected. This is why, you look at the cryptid world, you look at the paranormal world, they are so behind the times because very few of them are actually investigating the fact that the phenomena is everything.
Yeah.
The phenomena is UFOs. The phenomena is consciousness, is Bigfoot, is Dogman, is ghosts, is spirits, is poltergeists, is near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, astral travel, all right, reincarnation. The phenomena is everything. This is the biggest learning lesson that I have learned in the last 6-8 months, and for the last few years, we have been trumpeting that the phenomena is all interconnected. I would say to my listeners, point blank, that there is, I believe, a invisible string that is sewn right through every piece of this puzzle. And, but the ghost people, they want to hunt ghosts. Half of them, I shouldn't say half, I should say about 90% of them can't even figure out what to do with their evidence. They don't even know what they're solving. The cryptid people are more worried about the debate, whether it's supernatural versus flesh and blood. The UFO people are the ones who are getting it. The UFO people are the ones who are taking the lead. However, when you bring it to a governmental side of it, there are politicians who are starting to understand, like Representative Gallagher, who went on a podcast right after the day after the hearings and basically said, we don't know where these things are coming from. Are they coming from space? Are they time travelers from our future? Are they a future us? Are they from different dimensions? Are they from, different systems? We don't know. And that's a more believable answer than anything regarding it. But the problem that we have here is the UFO people are the ones who are going to bring it all together. That's what I believe. Eventually, the cryptid and the paranormal people will fall into line in understanding that the phenomena is one and all. Whether you call it God or whether you call it a source or whether it's Buddha, Brahma, Vishnu, Allah, whoever you pray to, eventually it's going to come down to one source. The government side of it, though, Drew, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, is the majority of them, okay, no, let me rephrase that, pardon me. In Washington, D.C., okay, the United States government still has a a big ego around "In God We Trust." Now, I'm saying this as a God guy. Okay, I'm a God guy. I'm not a source guy. I'm not a, it's what I personally believe. But when it comes to politics, they have a lot of stress on their hands, man. I was talking to Luis Elizondo a few weeks ago on my show, and one of the questions that I asked him was, were the government officials regarding UAP paying attention to how people treated each other during COVID? Now, I don't want to get into a big COVID debate because whether you believe or not, that's irrelevant to this conversation. But he answered the question the way I thought he would. Basically said, yes. You look at the way humanity treated each other during the first few months of COVID, hoarding toilet paper, people ripping milk out of single moms' shopping carts, people hoarding meat and cans of soup and toothpaste and toothbrush. Like all of a sudden, the world ended and we were running out of supplies. Well, for God's sakes, we've never run out of supplies. Okay. What we ran into was stupidity. Okay. Not whether or not the virus was real, but stupidity in the way we treated each other. And the US government, okay, looked at that. Members of the US government looked at that and they said, my God, what do we do when extraterrestrials come? Not if, when. Okay. And I'm getting this from not only Elizondo, but other sources. Okay. You have to realize there are very few topics of conversation that are going to dominate every person in humanity. Let's talk about a few. Nuclear holocaust. That would not be good for anybody on this planet. It doesn't matter if you're living in the barren islands of off the coast of India, where you're still partying like it's 1499. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you are in Canada, where I am, which is a nuclear-free zone. It doesn't matter if you're in South America. Nuclear holocaust is going to affect everybody on this planet. Okay, Jesus Christ Himself coming down from the heavens. Okay. And all of the religious people on this planet are going to say, hey, we got one right. We got one right. Look at this. Our bingo card hit, and now we can call bingo. All right. That's going to affect everybody on the planet. Major disease. Yeah. COVID affected a lot of people on this planet.
Yeah.
Okay? Who cares about how it started, what started it? A lot of people died because of it. Pandemics are huge. You go back 100 years to the last one, where like 35 million people died. And I believe the Earth population wasn't even 1 billion back then. That's a big chunk. Right? Now you fast forward to today. Okay. What else can affect every person on this planet? Aliens can. Aliens can, because it changes the ball game. Number one, all of a sudden, we're not alone in the universe. Number two, the religious people have to figure out, is it really Armageddon? Because anything that comes from the sky is apparently Beelzebub and his boys coming down to wreak havoc and end the world, like in Revelation. Or is it something along the lines of the economy? How is this going to affect the economy? How is it going to affect the military industrial complex? How is it going to affect the majority of people on this planet who are really suffering from depression and anxiety right now and may do something stupid? Well, the aliens are here. They're coming to eat us, because that's what Hollywood has said. That's what we've been told about this threat narrative for the last few years. What do? I might as well go take out everybody I hate on my hit list, because let's face it, everybody has one. Everybody, I don't care how sane you are or insane you are, everybody has that list where it's like, geez, you know what? I really hated the seventh grade who bullied me and pulled my pants down in front of the girl that I had a crush on. We all have that hit list. You know, 99.98% of us don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying
Yeah,
that
yeah,
in
yeah.
jest.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
get it. I get it for sure. But I think, so what are all those things, that a global paradigm shift is the name of the game. I think that you know for me, like, I think we're going to get into your story in just a bit about your first experience, and backtracking a little bit, I do know about you being a mainstream media guy because I listened to your story on Jimmy Church a few like weeks ago when you were on about how you had your moment when you had the vision. Someone called in, you had the vision. Can't wait for the audience to hear that story. But that just it reminded me when we was talking about having incidences with UFOs or ETs. The way you know being I started to get into this industry back in 2018 2019. I started attending my first conferences, contacting the desert. I met Travis Walton there and some other people, and but now I'm to the point where people are starting to share their stories with me more, and I'm starting, and the way I vet those people or really figure out if it's a legit story or if they're just trying to make it up for to get attention. I ask them what did they learn from it, because I believe any ET experience, any genuine ET experience, is going to have some type of lesson that comes from it. And this goes to me when I met Travis. Like, before I met Travis, I was like, I don't know about this guy. He's the story he's pushing. The only story I heard up into that point was he was abducted. He's saying he was abducted. He was wronged by the aliens and all this stuff. I think the general consensus is people have, when they have experiences, they start to realize that these beings are highly advanced, and they're actually other particles of ourselves, and they're like future particles of ourselves, and they're here just trying to help us get along, like. And when I met Travis in 2019, it cemented that thing, because looking into his eyes, I shook his hand, and I had about 5 minutes to talk to him, just me and him. Like, what's your views on your experience? He's like, well, I know that they were helping me. I know they hurt me accidentally, and they were helping me, and it was all for a certain reason, to teach me something. And just the look in his eyes was just, he was tearing up as he was saying this. And I was like, okay, that's he had a genuine experience. Whether it all happened physically like that, it doesn't really matter. The end result is the same. The 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 experience happened, and he absorbed it, and it forever changed him. And I think it goes to prove, like, sometimes there's experiences, and there's two people standing side by side, and one person will see the ship and the other person won't see it, and they'll be looking the same direction. I think it's about vibration. And me and Grant got into this on my first episode of Eagles Nest podcast. We got into this about the consciousness aspect, and how it's it's kind of like a dream or a vision in the awake state. When you see a ship, and that it's not to see the colors, the shape, tic tac, oval, wings, no wings, propulsion. All that stuff is just side information. The real lesson in it is the higher vibration feeling, because I know each and every time I've had an experience, I've felt it from my core out. It's engulfed my whole being. It shook me to my core, each and every experience that I've had. Let's get into let's segue this into your experience. What got you started? Enough about the Congress hearing. That's been beat down into the dirt so much over the in hours and hours of podcasts. If anybody wants to hear any more commentary about the UFO, there's plenty of other commentary on other stations out there. But yeah, let's get into what got you into the business. Like, what changed the the mouth of British Columbia? What changed it over to UFOs?
Well, the big thing for me was when I left radio in 2007, I left for good. I had no intention or plan on coming back. And in 2011, I had an experience with my mother I where I literally saw the angel of death in her eyes. And later that night, I ended up channeling the angel of death. I never knew what channeling was, didn't understand it. But he told me basically that I wasn't supposed to see him. I wasn't supposed to have any interaction with him. But since I did see him, he felt he owed me an explanation and basically told me how to keep my mother alive. My mother was very sick. She was a 2-time cancer survivor. Uh, Radiation and chemotherapy really beat the tar out of her. And we as a family were not treating my mother the way we should. My mother comes from a very strict Mennonite background, and my mother, in our opinions, had, and this is going to sound horrible here, but my mother had gotten addicted to the sympathy. And, I remember Drew calling up my mom. My mom would answer the phone like sounding normal. And it'd be like, hello. And I'd be like, hey, mom, how you doing? And she'd be like, oh, the pain, the pain, the pain. And it'd be like, God, I just want to have a conversation with my mom. I'm tired of
Yeah.
the pain. My sisters were getting the same thing. My dad was getting the same thing. And we were all just fed up until I got my ass kicked by the angel of death. And he told me that if we as a family did not start treating my mother with more love and respect, that he was going to take her home. He didn't say heaven. He didn't say hell. All he said was that he was going to take her home. And so I followed what he said, right? I mean, 2 years later, I have my partner and I have our son. And my mom, when she met my son, that first day he was born, I mean, my mom couldn't pick up a soup ladle. That's how weak she was. Yet my son comes around and here she is, you know, being the best grandma ever. My mom is, she's struggling right now, but my mom, 10 years, going on 11 years later, is still alive. So did I get an extra decade plus out of my mother because of this? I tend to think we did. And that kind of kicked it off. That all happened on December 13th, 2011, and within 2 days of that happening, my house went completely haunted. My kids were seeing things. You'd be sitting I'd be sitting on the recliner, and right behind me, all of a sudden I'd hear somebody running down the stairs or running up the stairs. You turn and look, there's nobody there. That never happened in my house. Right now, I was always, let me preface this though. I was always a believer, Drew, because I wanted to believe. I worked in a haunted building. I had lived in a haunted house. My first real paranormal experiences happened in 1995, 96, working in that haunted building. I thought that was cool. Okay. I saw my first UFO when I was 21. I remember, sitting around campfires with my buddies growing up as teenagers. I want to see three things before I die. I wanted to see a UFO. I wanted to see a ghost. I wanted to see a Sasquatch. I've seen all three. I got a few bonus programs in there, like aliens and wood nymphs and fairies, shadow people, so I crossed a few more off the list. But for the most part, I've always kind of been a believer. It's not like I was, a high skeptic of these non-existing. I just wanted to see them with my eyes, so that way I could say, okay, we can cross that one off the bucket list. And I did. But yeah, 2011 at the end of it it was the real catalyst to the start of it. I mean that kept on going. A few months later, I started working with a gentleman named Pascal, who I call my guru, my brother, my hero, my friend. And I remember in that first conversation that we had, he asked me the question, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And I said, all the way.
All the way.
And he goes, you know that once we start, there is no turning back. And I was prepared for that. There were certain things I wasn't prepared for, though, Drew. I wasn't prepared to lose my friends. I wasn't prepared to be the bad guy because I changed.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared to be the outcast, where I wasn't even invited to family events. I can give you a quick example of that. In 2015, when I moved north, my mom comes up and is helping us move. And she asked me, she goes, will I see you at your uncle and aunt's house next weekend? So for what? She goes, for the family vacation, or for the the family reunion. I said, what family reunion? She goes, well, didn't Auntie call you? And I'm like, no. And then my mom, trying to cover it up, is, oh, that's right. I was supposed to tell you about it. I said, no, you weren't, Mother. No, you weren't. I said, did my aunt call my sisters? Well, yeah. I said, then she was supposed to call me. I didn't get the phone call. And sorry, I will not be attending because I'm not going to be somewhere that I'm not wanted.
Right.
And these are things that you pay the price. I paid the price financially. Here's what I do. Here's one thing about the phenomena that I would love for somebody to answer me. Okay. You hear a lot of stories about this, man, where people are making like 50, 60, 100,000, 200,000 or more a year. And all of a sudden the phenomena hits them in the gut and their financial situation just crashes, absolutely crashes. And a lot of these people are like, support me on YouTube, support me on Patreon, support me buy me a coffee. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We do it too. Because
I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna put up my
yeah.
This brings up a good banner. So there's the banner, guys. If you want to support us,
our time isn't free. Our time isn't free from what we do. But one of the questions that I would like answered would be, why financially has this hit so many people negatively?
I don't get it either. It's a process. I've been, I've definitely been through it, and I definitely feel you on the family functions and not getting invited, or just being not maybe even talked about like flat out. I'm sure in the background talked about a lot, but like just knowing that there's conversations going in the background, and you're not getting invited, to I've been close to family before, and them not come see me, and I'm travel across the country and like close to them and not seeing them. It's so hard, man. That's why I spoke about, like, I hope that there's going to be relief for it one day. I hope that because really it's not about UFOs or anything about that. It's about consciousness. It's about knowing that there's a higher energy or vibration, whatever you want to call it. It goes by several different names, but the vibration stays the same. Whatever it is, that vibration, we all can feel familiarity in it, but the names change on it. But yeah, I just hope that there's some relief on it someday. I hope there's some balance. Yeah, and there's very few in this community that is making a substantial income from this. Most of us are doing this kind of as a hobby, for the most part. I wrote 2 books, and I've given way more than I've sold, and it's just because it's more about the message. The overall, it's about the message for me, like, and it's the freedom in it that comes from this understanding, and I'm I'm assuming this is going to be paid back in some way, form, or fashion sometime in the future. And I think it's a lot about faith. I think this, and that's a part of this hero's journey that we're on. We're right at the tip of the spear on this, man. Like we're speaking constantly on it. We're getting in-depth conversations with people that you know are really into this, and some of these people are high level people. Lou Elizondo, I mean, I don't know how deeper you can get into it as far as the governmental side of this information than to interview him. And the this is really high level stuff we're bringing forward, and I hope there's some balance coming. That this is starts to be looked at as an actual maybe profession or something where it started getting supported in maybe a little different way. Where people, because I mean, if I had more resources, I could do more. I could put out more content. I could film crafts. Like I live here in the super highway of UFOs. Like the San Luis Valley is known for this. Creststone's right up the road. Stephen Greer had his headquarters there for a while. There's thousands of instances that's been reported on MUFON that's happened in this valley, and it could be so much more. But maybe we're doing all we can, and that's what we need to be okay with, and that's
Well,
why I just like having fun doing this, man. I
oh
love
yeah.
talking. I love talking to good people. I love talking about UFOs. It's funny that now that it's becoming more accepted by the mainstream. I love seeing it. I love seeing it on mainstream feeds now, and not buried down 10 pages deep in a website on CNN. It's popping up, right at the top, right under Ukraine, and the Johnny Depp trial. It's right up under there. So it's working its way towards the top. It's just got to beat out Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing, and then we can get the top news feed.
Well, you know what? It goes back to what we were saying about earlier on, man. What is disclosure? What
Mm.
is what we your disclosure is different than mine, which is different from the politicians, which is different from your audience. You and I have had the gamut, I mean, of everything that is going on. We've interacted with extraterrestrials. We've seen UFOs. We've seen the paranormal happen. We've seen shifts in our own personal consciousness and what we are going through. And I think, as we move forward in this subject, I think more people are going to open up to that. I look at the younger generations, my kids' age, and I have a blended family. I have a 23-year-old daughter from my first marriage, from with my partner now. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter, and I have an 8-year-old, soon to be 9-year-old son here in a couple weeks. And, I look at them as my case in points. They don't care about, the politics. They're starting to take interest because they're starting, especially the older two, because they're starting to learn. But you know what? Their generation that I'm noticing, they're about how can I put it? They're about learning their own spirituality.
Mhm.
They're about learning their own consciousness, their own abilities, their own psychic connections, their own intuition, their own knowledge of what is going on with the phenomena. And I think a lot of these, 25 and under kids are really starting to push that. They're not looking for answers within a church. Okay. They may believe in God, but or what have you, but they're not looking for their answers in a church. They're going out into nature and actually taking the time to thank nature for being so beautiful, to hug a tree, to pick up that little rock on the ground and give it a throw and just enjoy the feeling of what Mother Nature has blessed us with. And I see more and more kids starting to do that. And I think that's a good thing, because the more we can open up and expand the consciousness of these younger generations, I think the better. I mean, look, that comment could become very political very, very fast. And I'm trying not to push it that way, but
Yeah.
but the idea that today's younger generations are taking the time to smell the flowers, where work is, hey, we can crap on them that, work and education isn't as important as it was, say, when you were a kid or when I was a kid. All right. But they're seeing the world in a different light, man.
Hmm.
It's not about the dollars in the bank account. It's about how many breaths can you take and say, hey, I'm enjoying this life.
I
I mean,
I
there is
so
reality.
I so agree with that, man. It's a lot that that when you get to a certain point in this process, especially when you're raising kids. I obviously have a newborn. He's 5 months old, Hawk, and I have a 17-year-old about to be 18-year-old stepdaughter. I have uh, a son and a daughter, both in their teens. One's about to be 19, married this year. One's about to be 17 from a previous marriage. So I've seen them all start to have their own experiences. I'm very disconnected from my older kids from my previous marriage, but I do have had some contact with them over the years, and to see, especially my daughter's spiritual growth. I check in on her, and she was just posted on Instagram a while back, something being about the divine feminine. And I was like, man, that's perfect. Like for her to be able to identify that also as herself and be identified as a divine feminine. My stepdaughter, Alyssa, she's had her own experience with ET. She had the moon come up to her balcony window, and then realized that the moon was in a different part of the sky. And that changed her. And before that, she was going to conferences with us, and oh, mom and dad crazy, this, that, and the other. And then she had her own experience. So and her artistic side has really come out over the past couple of years. So it's beautiful to see the consciousness aspect coming through, especially in your children. And one thing we have to let go of is the way me and you were brought up. I'm 42. You just turned 49. We're from the same era, but a lot of the stuff that we were brought up in and really feel like, oh man, this is detrimental for us to have in our wheelhouse.
What's going on right now?
I'm getting a lot of feedback. Are you hearing
That
feedback?
was on my end.
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize. I have a
No worries.
program, an audio program that sometimes kicks in, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. I was just trying to get it cleaned up. But a lot of stuff that, especially I had to let go of. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't part of how to raise a child, like how I was brought up. It was right for me, and it got me to where, right here talking to you. So it had to be part of the process. But like, I think this next comment I'm saying goes a lot to what you just said. Like, how we're raising our children has to evolve as well. Like we have to keep moving forward in our evolved state. We have to apply that, and this is a good thing for me because I have children that I was changing diapers almost 20 years ago, and I'm changing diapers again. So, but I'm seeing the parent process from a totally different viewpoint now, from a very spiritual, very conscious, and knows I understand about vibration. So I'm starting to instill that even in Hawk. I think it's just we need to evolve, and I think as we parent, we need to evolve too. And I think that's in generally like what you were getting at as well. So I love the viewpoint, man. Like, I love it.
Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll. One of the things that I notice being an older parent now is how much more lenient I am. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but as a parent, I mean, man, my boy gets away with things that I never would have got away with ever, but
Does he eat pancakes after noon?
oh yeah.
He does.
Yeah,
He gets away with that.
drives me nuts. He had pancakes for dinner last night.
Oh
You
my gosh, that
look
has
at
to be.
here's a prime example. It drives me nuts. You know, the only thing I'm really really strict about with my boy is try your best at everything. Try your hardest. He's a naturally brilliant boy. Ever since he enrolled in school, he's always been in a split class. So if he's in grade 2, he's in the grade 3 class. If he's in grade 3 like he is this year, he's in a grade 3-4 class. He's always been in that higher split, and does very well. His imagination is beautiful. I mean, and everything. But he I look at him and he is so carefree, man. He is so carefree, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, I can't comprehend that carefree attitude, where it's like a perfect example, man. 2 years ago for his birthday, my dad bought him a brand new bike. Okay. He still hasn't learned how to ride a bike. All his friends are out there riding a bike. I'm like, come on, bud, let's go teach you how to ride a bike. Nah, I'll get to it when I want to.
What's
It's
he
like,
into?
come on, you got to learn how to ride a bike, But it's hilarious. Like, he's just so laissez-faire with things. Unless it's guitar, he really likes playing guitar.
Wow.
Uh, he really likes, you know, um, cutting up cardboard boxes for some reason and making cat homes, you know, and all of this. But I idolize the kid, man. I idolize the kid because you know what? He's into aliens. He's into Bigfoot. I take him out, man, and it'll be like, hey, bud, like I didn't get to today because he had a birthday party to go to. But normally on the weekend, hey, bud, we're going. We're going to go look for some Bigfoot. Are you coming? Yep, I'm in, Dad. I'm in. Let's go find it. Right. And, a few weeks ago, we did find some prints and he was just pumped right up. Right.
Awesome.
He's like ready. He wants to see one. And, late at night, it's harder. I don't know about you, man, but I have never really had that daytime UFO sighting. I think out of all the UFOs I've seen, it's only been like one in the daytime.
I've had
And
one. I've had one, and it was like the stories, like you take pictures, like, and you don't realize until afterwards that you took a picture of a UFO. Like my
yeah,
wife actually took this. We was coming back from Shasta. I was speaking at a conference. We're about to go to break in just a second, but we were coming back from speaking at a conference. We stopped by just to get some fresh air, stretch our legs. It was like halfway back home from Shasta, and we stopped by this lake, and my wife just saw a beautiful view. There's some flowers and then a big lake in the background, some mountains, and she took a picture. I look at it afterwards, and there's this corkscrew where you can see a ship like either entering or exiting our dimensional field, and it was just amazing. Just the signal to catch it right at that moment when it was in transition out of this world was just amazing. When we get back, I would like to get into your sighting from when you're working radio and had a call in for a sighting. I want to touch on Egypt, and I want to talk about Elon Musk and the future Mars settlement. Um, and when we get back from break, we're gonna get into that. Dave, you need to take care of anything? I'll bring you back on in just a few moments, brother.
all right.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a moment. Enjoy the music. Let me see. everybody. Welcome back to the Eagles Nest podcast. Again, we're filming live from the San Luis Valley in southern Colorado. And we have Dave Scott with us tonight. We'll bring him back in just a moment. And just remind everybody, go check out our website, sacredjourneyswithin.com. Check out the store page. You can get my book, I'm Perfect and So Are You, my first book, or Find Your Inner Guru. You can either get that on Amazon or the website. You can get through the store page on the website at the link right there, sacredjourneyswithin.com, and you can send it to you, and I will personalize it with an autograph too. If you buy from the website, or you can buy from Amazon, amazon.com. Both of them have been active there for quite some time. And yeah, this is episode number 9 of the Eagles Nest podcast. We've had some great guests so far. Check out our archives. Have Grant Cameron was my first guest. I have True Seeker from True Seeker podcast. Joel Lambert, Navy SEAL. He healed through with ayahuasca and iboga. He is in the archives from past shows. Laura Eisenhower, Geraldine, in the archives. And yeah, I had Jess Rogia on last week. Yeah, tonight we got Dave Scott. We're an hour into it, halfway through this great conversation with a great friend. We're gonna get hear Dave's story from when he was in radio. He had a call in. I'll let him tell the rest of the story. We're also, I'm gonna ask him about his feelings on Egypt. I ask every guest this, like, why is Egypt such a pivot point for this whole thing, even in the UFO community? And also, we're gonna maybe talk about Elon Musk and the future Mars settlements, and who knows where this is going, guys. Like, it's we're in some people say crazy times. I think it's really amazing times right now, but just the attitude of the government, finally admitting that they have been tracking these ships for so long and bringing out so much proof. There's just a new video that just come out too, of a border patrol agent that had that I think it's from 2013, that has a video of a craft or 3 crafts. No, maybe it wasn't Border Patrol, maybe it was Apache. Anyways, it was a helicopter. But that's a new one just come out recently. It's got 3 crafts in it. Yeah, and just a reminder, everybody join us next Sunday. We got Jason Quick coming up. That's going to be a great conversation. Followed by Kevin Day on the 12th of June. And on the 19th, we got Ruben Langdon, good friend of mine. Known him for a few years. And we're going to be talking to me, and Ruben's definitely going to be talking about ayahuasca. He has experience with it. And yeah, to find out that he first heard of ayahuasca from on the set filming the first Avatar movie, and knowing that the ayahuasca ceremony and ceremonies in general was a part of the premise between the Avatar from the first Avatar movie is pretty profound. And I can't wait to get in that story with him. But right now we're going to get back to Dave Scott and see what's going to unfold this next hour conversation with my dear friend Dave Scott.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. You let the dogs out?
Oh yeah, always.
Good. So you were on Jimmy's show maybe a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And I heard you telling a story about when you worked in radio and there was a call in. And can you walk us through those events of that moment? Because that's a really great story. What's that?
The one with the alien?
There's someone that called in, and there was a ship in the valley. You walked outside and saw this ship. There was I can't remember all the details of it.
That one was not me. That had to be someone else. I had a situation where where like a lot of people ask when I talk about Carl the alien. I was interviewing a guy named Harvey Kraft at that point. I did tell that story on Jimmy with Carl, and I was interviewing Harvey, and I had this back in my Blog Talk radio days when we first started Spaced Out, and it was April 20th, 2015, and I had for some reason I had left my outdoor lights off for 3 nights in a row. And I was the kind of guy where I always had my outdoor lights on. Always. And I had a makeshift radio studio at the front of my house, right beside my front door. And it was like 10:17 at night. And just to the left of me, there was a window. And I saw something move out that window. And I was thinking in my head, oh God, we got friends coming over and they've forgotten about this radio show that I'm doing. And now I'm going to be hearing my dogs bark because they're going to knock at the front door and my dogs are going to go off. I had a little dog back then, a Chihuahua Dachshund cross, where, I mean, dude, if there was a crosswind, that was 30 minutes of barking. You know?
I get it.
And I was stunned that after a few minutes there was nobody there. There was no noise. The dogs weren't barking, nothing. So at about the 10:17 mark, as Harvey is talking about Buddha of all topics, I put my microphone on mute and I spun my chair to look out the window, and the window is only a couple feet from me, maybe a foot and a half, 2 feet from me. And that's where I noticed the big black eyes, the hazel almond shaped eyes with the gray head, and it was like very bony structure around the eyes and the cheeks, and saw the small mouth, and I jumped back. Scared the daylights out of me. I did what any man would do. I jumped back and I screamed, and I damn near fell off the chair.
And right? Screamed like a girl, like anybody would in a situation.
Absolutely. And I jumped back up and I went and looked out the window because it was gone. And dude, if as quickly as that happened, if it was a human, I would have seen a human running away on my grass or running towards my vehicles or whatever. It was that split second fast. And it wasn't there. And I called up my psychic friend, a guy named R. Keith Andrews, okay, who would be great for you to have on the air. I called him up and I said, Keith, I just had an alien at my window after the show. Keith had never been to my house, doesn't even know where I live. Okay. And all of a sudden, he's very intuitive. All of a sudden he says to me, he goes, by the way, he goes, do you live in a subdivision? I said, yes. He goes, okay. Now, like, I always question a lot of psychics because a lot of them I feel are drifting for answers with those yes, no questions. And then he says, okay, he goes, I'm getting that between you and your neighbor, there's about 20 feet between your houses, but there's a little knoll that kind of goes downhill in between to the backyards. Am I correct? I'm like, yeah, you're 100% correct. Right? Like, he's never seen my house and he's reading this and he goes, okay. He goes, that's where the ship was parked. And he's down, and this alien now is going to get in a lot of crap because he wasn't allowed to see you or you weren't allowed to see him. I said, well, why was he there? He goes, Dave, he goes, think about the topics you're talking about. Those are shooting into the universe, man.
Yeah.
He goes, it's not just an internet thing. Those are signals that are shooting into the universe. And he's like, he goes, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. Right. And so I ended up nicknaming him. I nicknamed him Carl. And That's kind of how the legend of Carl showed up. And um, it was really kind of cool, man. It was that happened. We're about a 6-month-old show, 5-month-old show at that point. And you get all these little really cool experiences that happen during the show, man, and with the people you surround yourself with. I've had a lot of cool things happen. I had a demon show up beside me one time, and disappeared. I was interviewing a guy named Anthony Kenyatta who had this haunted doll named Harold who right before the show, Anthony was like, there may be some weird stuff that happens during the show. Usually this happens. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, whatever. You play it up and thinking the person is overreacting or something along those lines. And God, like 45 minutes later, man, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. And I turned slowly to look, and there's a hooded figure a black figure standing right beside me, about 3 feet away. And then it just disappeared, right? Scared the daylights out of me. In this room now, before it was built, I had the flag up there like that. And you could literally see like someone is on the back side of the flag at night, like with a flashlight, because you saw this kind of white orb going through the flag that's behind me, covering my window. And this was going on for like half an hour. And I, at my break, slowly snuck out of here. This before this was built. So I slowly snuck out of here and went around thinking it was a buddy of mine. And I even called him, and he was at home. And next thing you know, on Periscope, where we used to broadcast the show onto Periscope, you actually see this exact same orb whip right across in front of my face on camera. And I never saw it, but it's funny because I'm looking at my camera at you right now, and I can see the picture of me, and I see this orb, but I don't see it with my eyes. I see it on camera happening. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Why do you think that is? That's a common phenomenon. Like, it's
I
happened to
don't
me
know.
several times. What is it? You think it's they don't want the shock to see it face to face, or what? Like, what? I don't know, man.
The phenomenon,
I
from
say
what
they, but who's they anyway?
yeah, the phenomenon only wants you to see what it wants you to see.
Mm-hmm.
This is why, dude, you hear all these people who are outside, and you'll have like 10 people in a group, and 5 of them will see a UFO like a couple hundred feet above them, and the other 5 won't see squat. We actually had that happen at a friend of mine's property. They had this mini ECETI ranch thing going on, man, in Mission, British Columbia. They had ghosts, they had UFOs, they had fairies, they had shadow people, orbs, Bigfoot, everything there happening, man. It was wild because like every couple days it was something new. We'd go outside, hey, let's see some UFOs, and goddamn, there'd be UFOs out there. It was incredible. And I remember one time we were doing a perimeter walk. There were 4 of us, and I felt like we were being followed by something. And I turned back. We were walking along the side of the house. They had like a 10-acre property, and in behind the house they had this big black old cherry tree. And I turn and look, and beside the cherry tree, I see this pixelation. Like when they pixelate someone's face on television so you can't recognize them. Okay. And I'm looking at this, and this pixelation is like from the ground to about 8-10 feet up.
Like the Predator.
Yeah.
Like the Predator movie.
Yeah. And I said to my friends, I said, do you not see that pixelation? Only one of the other 3 saw it. And the other two were like, oh, well, I see nothing. They're getting frustrated. Right. So we continue to walk another 15, 20 seconds to the front of the house. We get to the front of the house, and right behind where we were, behind that cherry tree, dude, we got roared at by a Sasquatch. We got roared at, and it was the most blood curdling thing that I had ever heard, dude. I've never heard it again. I would love to hear it again, but I know that we were all like, let's get in the house now.
Yeah.
Let's get
man, I've had so many occurrences where I'd be like, man, I want this to happen. Then when it happens, be like, man, maybe I wasn't ready for that. Like I wasn't. It just shakes you to your core. But I had an experience when we first moved to Crestone, like 4 or 5 years ago. We were living in the house, just a few months, just moved in the San Luis Valley, and I heard stories about the San Luis Valley before, and known like that there's a lot of weird occurrences that's went on here. Man, but we were sitting in the living room and we were watching Gaia. That's when I first found Gaia, and I was watching Gaia, and I was just sitting there like watching. I can't remember even what was on, what program, but I was just like, man, that'd be crazy to have an experience like that. Like, no sooner I had that thought, like the whole house just lights up, like, and kind of like what what reminded me of the story. I thought someone was coming. I thought it was like someone that was turning the corner. We live close to a corner in this subdivision in Crestone, so I thought it was a car that had just its headlights had caught the right angle and just lit up the house, and it stayed there for a few seconds, and I noticed the light was emanating from the sky. Like it wasn't a car, it was emanating from the sky, and it was the angle of it, but it was lit up the whole house. I'm just looking at this light and it goes away. And I look at my wife, she's sitting right beside me. I was like, that was crazy. Did you see that? And she's like, see what? And I was just like, how did you not see the house just lit? How did you not see the whole house lit up? It was like there wasn't a shadow in the house. It was so bright. We had a guest house out back, and we had some friends staying with us from Texas. They had like a 14-year-old girl. They come running in the house in the morning. A couple hours later, they're like, hey, we got to go. Like, she explains like what their daughter saw. Like their daughter was looking out. It's like a upstairs loft in our guest house, and they were upstairs in the bedroom, and she said a light just lit up the bedroom, and it was like where the patio where the light was coming from, where I saw it, it would have went right past the direction where it went when I saw it leave. It went right past the house, and it was witnessed by their daughter, and she was freaked out. And but right after that incident, after I asked my wife, did you see that? She didn't see it. Before they come in, just a couple minutes after that, I gained the courage to walk outside to get up off the couch. I'm like, man, if you didn't see it, I was like, I know I saw it. I know it wasn't a car. It came from the sky. Whether it was a drone, someone had a spotlight on a drone or whatever, or a UFO, whatever it was a bright light from the sky. I walked outside on the patio, looked up, nothing. Bunch of stars, see the mountain in the background, but no ETs or anything. I go back in, I go to bed that night, and this about a half hour, 45 minutes later, go to bed, immediately go into a dream, sitting on the couch again, and I get deja vu in the dream. I see Gaia. I see the Gaia program in my dream, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is I'm going back into it. And I saw the light again. In the dream, I was able to walk outside, and I looked up and I saw the bottom side of the ship. It was probably about 20 small blue lights on the outside, and it had like interconnecting doorway in the middle, and it opened up like I don't know how to describe it, but it opened up like you would see in a movie, and this blue light come down, and then I don't remember anything else after that. But that whole incident was only witnessed by me, and my wife was right beside me. So it's just weird, like, yeah, this, and we're the same vibration, like me and my wife, the same. We talk about the same things, we're on the same tip, same same understanding about a lot of things. But just at that time, I guess it was just meant for me, and um, that was probably the first profound experience I've had with ET, and none of this ever happened until I started with ayahuasca. And we're going to get into this Tuesday more, the connection between ET on your show, the connection between ET and psychedelics and stuff. But yeah, the psychedelics was first, and then ET unfolded after that. So I really, I really see the phenomenon as the whole thing, like we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What's something that comes up constantly in this phenomenon that goes hand in hand with the ETs and consciousness and everything is Egypt. I ask every guest the same question: why is Egypt such a pivot point in this journey, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness, I am so the wrong person to ask the question to, dude. I, look, we don't have, and I'm probably speaking out of my ass here, okay? So forgive me for if you don't agree with what I'm about to say. We have a lot of speculation about what happened 4 or 5,000 years ago in Egypt, and with the hieroglyphs and everything that kind of goes on what's been carved into to certain paintings and certain structures and everything. And look, there's some weird stuff in there, but I don't know if aliens helped build the pyramids. I don't know if aliens were walking among us back then. And what kills the entire subject for me, where I think it's absolutely bogus, is when you have people on television acting like this is matter of fact. It's all theory and conjecture, and I don't know if there was aliens back then. Look, there's some interesting stuff that's been carved, and I'm going to say everything that everybody has already seen before on TV or the pictures, but I'm really not somebody who gives too much time to the whole Egypt stuff. And maybe I'm wrong for that. Maybe I'm naive about that, because the one thing I always like to tell people, Drew, is I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I'm a journalist, and I'm an experiencer.
Yeah.
So when I see people going into Egypt and talking about, the ancient aliens obviously helped build the pyramids because there's something that looks like an astronaut that's been carved into one of the walls. But the astronaut doesn't look like an alien. The astronaut looks like an astronaut from the 1980s, 1990s, taking a spacewalk outside the International Space Station or one of the shuttle spacewalks. I have a real issue with that. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. 2 plus 2 isn't equaling 4. And
Right.
I'm not saying that,
I
but
I totally get that. I am a big fan of Egypt. I've had channeling Osiris channeled through me spontaneously. It was my first experience with channeling, and it was a 2-hour long thing. I'll talk to you about that after when we get done with the interview offline. I got a project you might be interested in. That's pretty cool. But so Osiris channeled through me, and when I went back and listened to the channeling afterwards, I I was grateful I was able to have it recorded. My wife started recording it when I started spewing out this information, so I got to listen to it afterwards, and I cross-referenced a lot of this information, and it's stuff that I wouldn't have never known. It's nothing that I've ever studied. It's nothing that I don't ever consciously remember studying, and it's very detailed information about Osiris's life. Um, that being said, like the connection between the pyramids and Orion's belt, the those things are undeniable. I do think that I agree with you and I disagree with you, because I think that some of the Egypt stuff is taken too far. Just like any of the things, like you start reaching for things like, say, if you, a lot of people has had UFO experiences, they might go a year or two without another UFO experience, and some things they might have in between that time frame that they might claim as UFOs, they may have been over exaggerating it, just because, man, it's hard going a year or two without a UFO, seeing a UFO. If you've seen a UFO, like you want to see one the next day, and then it just lasts forever. So I think that same vibration goes with any area of the phenomenon, including Egypt. There is a lot of truth. There is a lot of stuff that blows your mind. Billy Carson was on a few weeks ago talking to, he's a big fan of Egypt, shared a lot of pictures and stuff, but he also shared a lot of information that is really profound information. There's actual wood inside the pyramids. Where's the wood come from? And just other small things. But my first channeling from Osiris, I recently read the Emerald Tablets from Thought, and that's a big Egypt thing. If you're not familiar with it, check it out, listeners. But the first channeling I did from Osiris, there is phrases that is in the Emerald Tablets that I spoke as Osiris in my first channeling back in 2018 or 19. Before I even really knew anything about this Egypt stuff. Those are my own personal experiences. That's why I know there's Egypt has some type of connection in this journey. There's a lot of people that experience it. Maybe Egypt is not in the wheelhouse that you need for your recipe to get to where your eventual conscious evolution goes, wherever we're supposed to be at in that. So,
Well, see, and I'm not shooting down that theory at all. I think you could be completely right on that. But for me, I can't go back 4,000 years when I can't even find out or figure out what happened at Roswell. Right? And look, I look at something like Egypt or the Aztecs or whatever. That's all in this Pandora's box of ufology that is hidden deep underneath the Pentagon, and it's just something
the Vatican.
Vatican, or
Yeah.
I mean, they know more than what they're telling. You know that, and I know that. And
yeah.
I think that a big part of the issue is, first, it's kind of like I get frustrated, man, when I see the government, talking about the Nimitz in 2004, and they're refusing to talk about any other UFO event prior to that, whether it's Phoenix in 97 or the 1967 incidents that happened at Shag Harbor, Falcon Lake, or anywhere around that. I mean, I get mad at that, thinking, dudes, this didn't start in 2004. This has been going on a while.
But what about Betty and Barney Hill? It's starting to come out that the government was even in on that, even in on those interviews. They've known about this. That's why I think it's a fear tactic thing. Like the government uses for people not to come forward. I think with this, backtracking to the beginning of this show, talking about the congressional hearing, this is allowing a lot of people to share their stories, that may not have shared, may have not even felt comfortable coming forward and saying, hey, I did see a light in the sky, or this, that, and the other. But so I think that's important. Also, I seen another video come out from the military about their Apache. Did you see that? Have you seen that video yet?
Apache video.
Yeah, their 3 crafts flying in formation.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. That was pretty intense. I think it was something that is very, very interesting. They were moving very, very fast, man.
Very
and
fast.
and this is where I get a little pissed off with a lot of the critics out there. These fighter pilots and helicopter pilots, they're trained to know what's in the sky. And you get the critics of that one. You hear the Apache pilot and his gunner talking about looking like F-15s or F-16s. You're not at that education and at that knowledge, you're not going to mistake an F-15, which is about a 48-foot long, 55-foot long aircraft, for a goddamn bird.
Right.
Okay? You're not going to do that. I mean, that's like...
Yeah, speaking, not to cut you off, but speaking, I feel like this is a time to interject in this. My military experience, my job in the military, I called fixed wing and rotor wing aircraft strikes. I knew, and I had to get a secret security clearance to have some of the knowledge I have on the weapon capabilities of all of the arsenal of the United States military, Navy, Army, Marines, all branches. I had to know weapon capability of everything that they had, all the way up to nuclear. Anything below nuclear, I knew. I have extensive knowledge on all the weapon systems because I had to know how to, we could drop it from a plane, if we could shoot it from artillery, if we could shoot it from naval gunfire, if we could shoot it from a rotary aircraft. I had to know all this. So I know how extensively that you have to dive into your job. I wasn't a pilot. I think the comment and the statement saying that your job if you're a pilot, you know what the other crafts are around you. From a military point of perspective, I can't speak as a pilot, but I can say you do go very, very deep into your job, very technical on everything. I mean, I think it's an obvious point, but I want to just give my point from a military perspective, being a 10-year veteran, having 2 combat deployments, and really you have to know your job very deeply. And I was on the ground, I was just a nobody on the ground, had a couple stripes on my arm and a radio, not a pilot. And there was over $2 million invested into my training to get me to where I was. You just imagine how much money and time and schooling is put into flying a $1 billion craft.
Absolutely. I mean, the education that they have to have in order to get there. All right. Like, most people don't understand. You just don't go into the Air Force office and say, hey, I want to fly F-35s. And they look at you and say, okay, well, first off, you have to have a bachelor's degree at minimum. Doesn't matter what it's in. They prefer physics, science, mathematics. Okay, could be basket weaving, as long as you have a bachelor's degree. Now you go into the application process. Once you hit the application process, you are out of every. I know it was back when I tried to get into the Air Force. Even though because the Canadian Armed Forces had shut down hiring in 1991. So I went down and actually found out this information about, could a Canadian guy actually join the U.S. Air Force? And I remember the recruiter telling me that only 2 out of every 500 applicants actually gets to fly. So you have 5, so every year kids are graduating, whether it's high school or college or university, and they want to go fly fighters because they've had this dream, just like old Davey did as a kid. All right. And you need 2 to 5 years of education in order to fly those fighters. So you're not choosing the dumbest of the dumb. You're choosing the best 2 out of 500. Now, out of those 2, there's a bunch of 500s out there. So out of those numbers that get to go to flight school, how many of them fail out? Right? Because
attrition rate is astounding, man. Like, it's with any of it.
Yeah, you have, say, 200 pilots a year go through for flight training. Guys may not be, or women may not be able to handle the G-forces of a certain aircraft, or their eyesight might not be as perfect, or maybe that they don't have the flexibility. Maybe they can't handle the roll rates. Maybe they can't handle the quick thinking that is needed. So all of a sudden, you dream of flying F-15s, and you end up flying a 54-year-old C-5 Galaxy and moving a gear all around the world. Not as exciting, but
Yeah.
you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And the same thing is for these helicopter pilots. And when they're up in the air, they are trained and trained and retrained and retrained. They know the difference between, like I said, a bird and something flying extraordinarily fast.
I actually started going through the aviation program for helicopters in the Army. I was in a program, and my eyesight is what knocked me out of it. So yeah, it does happen. But man, the ends of flying a helicopter, like, this is just a written test. Like the beginning of it, I had to study this big book. It's like 400 pages. Then I had to take this written test on how to fly helicopters. Man, to all the controls I remember one of the questions was, if you're landing on on the side of a mountain, it has a grade of 37%, what pitch would you put your right pedal, left pedal? And you had to, like, and this is just a this is just the first test, Dave. Like, and I consider myself a pretty smart guy, and I would just, like, I was able to comprehend it, but just to think, like, man, this is going to be another 5 years of my life, and the universe works in mysterious ways. If I would have continued on and got LASIX and, really pushed and really, not gave up until I was in a helicopter, I would have eventually been in a helicopter. But I'm flying this helicopter right now, and everything works out the way it is. But all that being said, man, I know from personal experience of how in depth it was. Like, and I'm sure, like, you trying to go in it, you saw the first stages of it as well. That's even that's just the technical side of flying the crafts. Then you go into them digging all through your life. Like, I know from a secret security clearance, I know flying like F-16s and crafts like that, you have to have maybe top secret or above. I don't know, but I just had a secret security clearance, and they went all the way back to grade school teachers and interviewed them and asked them what my demeanor was when I was 12 years old. That's how in depth it goes for secret security clearance. I have no idea how in depth it goes for top secret above. But I can just tell you from experience how deep it goes for secret.
I never even knew it went like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. They do interviews. I think it's like at least 2 teachers from your past. Has to be years 12 or below. And sometimes they go all the way back to elementary school. Like, how was he in elementary school? How was he on the playground? Things like that. Like, and then they come do an interview with my first wife at the time, and my child was there. They write down notes of everything, how the house looks, like the demeanor of your partner, the demeanor of you, how your family looks, all of it. That's just for secret security clearance. You could just imagine how deep they go for top secret. I was in 2006. I went for I tried out for Special Forces, the Green Berets, and that I had to start the process, the initial process to get changed from secret to top secret, and there was another big booklet I had to fill out. That I never ended up getting my top secret because I washed out of selection before it got to that point, but. Yeah, man, they really dig deep, man.
Well,
Really dig deep.
It all comes down to trust, right?
Yeah, it's especially with, I mean, when you start, if you're anything past, changing tires on a Humvee or changing oils on a Humvee or something like that. Like, if you got any secrets that you have, they want to know who they're talking to before they let anything out.
Insane.
Have you
Insane.
we're winding down, about 20 minutes left here. Maybe it's too big of a thing to unpack. Maybe we're continuing to unpack it on Tuesday. But have you heard about the Elon Musk and talking about we're going to be living on Mars before in our lifetimes?
Yeah, you know what? Every time I hear about this, maybe it's my own wanting to live for the blue man, honestly. But I always tend to think like, well, if we have a secret space program, shouldn't Elon already know about this? You know, shouldn't
Probably
we already
does.
have these conversations regarding the woo factor of the secret space program and whether or not that's real and whether or not it's alive and well and whether or not it's of any sort of value. I mean, look, there's something strange going on Mars. I think we can all kind of look into that, and it is seeming to be the next frontier of where we go. I mean, first the moon, then Mars, but I'm just, man, I don't even know where to start with this because I so want to believe in the secret space program, man. I so want to believe that it is out there, that it is real, that it is a part of whatever we are doing and looking into. And then you get Elon Musk, where I'm going to fire up these antiquated rockets and we're going to blast off to the moon or to Mars with people. There's a good chance that all of us are going to die on Mars before anything is built. And oh my God, like, are we there or not, man? That's what I want to
Yeah. Part of me is like, man, this guy's pretty bold. He's just going to go there and not even know if he's going to make it back. Another part of me is like, if he's going there, I feel the story is more than what we know at this point. Like, I just don't see someone going there without like knowing that there's more structures, and then the pictures come out like a couple weeks after that of like the doorway, from the Mars rover
that
found.
was
That's pretty profound. Like, but there's the other side of that. Angles and angles can be tricky, like, 'cause sometimes things can look like they're a certain thing and they're not, and I don't know, until I'm there and see that doorway face to face. Like, it's hard to say if I'm ever gonna truly believe it. But and we're kind of starting to figure out NASA's been a disinformation agent for a long time.
That's the one that pisses me off a lot right now, dude. The whole NASA thing where their head Bill Nelson is talking about we got to get into the UFO game. We got to think extraterrestrials in there. And I just want to shake this dude. I know he's like 75 years old and he looks frail. Shake him and probably break at least 17 bones in his body. But I literally want to shake this guy because, as I've said in my blogs on Spaced Out Radio, I do this thing called Dave 101. I've said this recently. I've said it on the show numerous times. Bill Nelson needs to shut the hell up in public and start looking in his own closet and his own drawers at NASA. Look, there have been rumors since Apollo and previous to photographs being washed, whether it's on planets, whether it's from the ISS, whether it's from anything. We know there's been astronauts since the Gemini program who have seen things anomalous up in space, and including the Apollo when they were on the moon. We know this has happened. We know during the shuttle program that there were astronauts who saw things. Story Musgrave, there's one right there who spoke at Contact in the Desert a number of years ago. We know there have been people on the International Space Station who have seen things. Remember the Russian astronaut or cosmonaut, pardon me, about 2 years ago who filmed what looked to be a boomerang outside of the International Space Station. So
where are all these videos, Dave? We're coming up with videos from the Nimitz and Apache pilots, and you're going to tell me all these all these satellites and international space stations don't have videos as well? Like there's
What about
there's videos constantly running on a lot of these things.
all
Like,
the feeds that have been cut during when there's something strange coming on? I'm not saying UFO. I'm just going to use the term something strange.
right,
That
UAP,
okay.
whatever.
But I mean, this is where Bill Nelson has to give his head a shake and NASA's head a shake and realize they have been in this game for 60 years.
Yeah,
Okay. If
maybe
they
longer.
haven't seen anything, if they haven't seen anything, shame on him. Shame on NASA. Shame on the entire project, because their own people that they spent millions of dollars of training to go into space have seen things, and they're not even bloody well acknowledging it. It's an embarrassment. And Bill Nelson should be ashamed of himself for going public saying, well, maybe we need to get into this UFO game. Open your eyes, Bill. Open
No,
your eyes.
no one believes. I mean, I don't think, especially anybody in the UFO community, conference, podcast to guest community, believe, took any. They just laughed at that. I thought it was absurd. Like that was one of the things that really pissed me off, and also the threat. They're trying to push the threat when I know full well like that this thing is a spiritual process we're going through, or vibrational process we're going through. To Tesla was silenced, and he was speaking some amazing truths back in the day, and it's just a shame. What pisses me off the most, Dave, is there has been death and suffering when technologies and understandings have been available to us for so long that could have prevented so much death and so much suffering by so many. Free energy, consciousness, and how it works. They all know about this, and I can't wait till it comes out that they've known about, well, Project Bluebeam, the CIA experiments the CIA has been doing with mind control on this is starting to come out, and I can't wait till the whole collective knows about this and really really understands how far and how deep and what miracles that they have been holding back for so long because they don't want to give up control of the paradigm. But they're losing control of it now because it's out there. It's the cat's out of the bag now. It's unfolding at a point where they can't stuff it back in and take back control. And I think it's amazing. I think we're in amazing times.
But that's why Bill Nelson of NASA needs to come clean. Okay. You know what? I agree with you 100%, Drew, on this threat narrative. Okay. But I was told by my sources that the reason why they keep pushing the threat narrative is to make sure that there is money and funding for the project. And what happens is, and I never knew this about the United States, but how they envelope the military industrial complex to the point that we'll never get out of it unless there's a massive change on Earth is that the military industrial companies went and made sure, okay, well, you're in Colorado, so you have NORAD there. Okay, but you know what? In Kentucky, we're going to build the wheels for or the wheels for landing gear for helicopters, and in Indiana we're going to build the propulsion systems for missiles, and in Washington State we're going to build all the parts for the B-52s or whatever. I'm just being hypothetical here. So every state is part of that military industrial complex. They know, but they don't want to get out of it. They don't want to change. And the only way to get this through the politics is by having this threat narrative. I don't agree with it. I know the people that are pushing for disclosure on the governmental side are not fans of it. They agree with you. They agree with me. But because we are in such infancy with this subject, I mean, think about it. A guy like Lou Elizondo, man, he's in fifth gear going into sixth. People like you and me, we're coming out of first gear going into second. The politicians are still in fucking neutral. Sorry.
It's all right. We're not on a network or anything. Let it rip.
Okay. But they're still in neutral, about to shift into first. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where a lot of that problem starts. All right. So how do you get them bought in? Threat narrative, threat to the United States military, threat to the airspace, and threat to the American people. That's how you get it.
I can see that partially, and we're gonna go over a little bit, just a tad, because I have to talk about this. The military industrial complex. I saw it firsthand. I saw when I was in Iraq of how things are manipulated in Iraq, how we lose money at war, and this is how the military, this is how the government and the powers to be wash money. This is why we need wars periodically, because they need to wash money for these secret programs that are starting to come out, like Project Bluebeam, just to name one. But there's so many that are slipping my mind right now, names other programs that they've come out with over the past couple of years that's been in place, that's been in place for so long. It costs tremendous amounts of money to run these programs. And where do they get the money from? They get the money from the Connex in Iraq that's full of, and this is where my internet usually starts messing up when I start mentioning this stuff in my show. But I seen for myself, Connex is full of, like, one in particular. There was a Connex full of it's a site that goes on top of an M4. They're like $700 a piece. I found Connex is full of them, like hundreds of thousands of these that were never cataloged, that were off the books, and the money goes, like, there's this insurance policy and stuff that the money gets kicked back to the government. These Connexes get lost in the desert in Iraq, not because there's so much fog of war. They're able to wash this money back into the program. That so And the whole war thing is absurd, because this is like, the oneness or God thing. Like, we all are that. We all are a particle of it. And people talk about, all these nuclear weapons pointed back at the earth. It even talks about in the Emerald Tablets. It lays it out thousands of years ago of what needs to change for us to move forward as a humanity. We need to stop. For one, we need to start understanding. I'm looking at another particle in myself right now, but Dave Scott. And when we walk on the earth, we're looking at another particle of ourselves as well. Mother Earth is alive and a being. She has blood. She has a consciousness just like us. It's absurd that it'd be like, I have a bunch of guns on my property, but they're all pointed at my house. That's it's essentially what we're doing with the nuclear program. I think if they let it out the truth and understand, be like, look, we don't know what this is. It's we've never been attacked by anything. We've tried to attack ships, crafts. It never worked out really well for us, and we don't even know what it is. I think the American public would take that a lot better than this trickle, and them treating the public like they can't handle these profound truths that are really not new. They're just being relearned again, and I think, in a nutshell, I think that's what's going on, brother. Like, but yeah, just be. I think you got some audio playing over on your end, Dave.
Oh, geez, I shouldn't, because everything's
Had some
on my end.
feedback. I don't know what it is, but like I said, whenever I start talking about this stuff, something messes up. Like, maybe they just hit the record button or something, or on this conversation. But yeah, that's I'm not afraid to talk about any of this stuff. And Since my son being born, being thrust into the hospital and living basically, my son was born in the first 9 weeks we were in the hospital with him. So basically me and my wife lived in the hospital with him, and seeing the medical complex from a spiritual higher state point of view, I was able to see so much that's just the ingrained belief of how things work, just spills over on everything, and the medical professions. We've known how to cure things for so long that people are setting and dying in hospitals over, and we have the technology has been known by the government. And what I was speaking about earlier, that's what really pisses me off. There's people dying when we have the technology to save everybody. You know,
I
we, we
agree.
don't we don't have to suffer. But
My
we're
friend,
we're out of time. Where are you going to be at, Dave?
everybody can find us at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at Spaced Out Radio, and on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. I want to say thank you. I would go longer, but because on our side of the network, I have my host going on, I never overcross
No worries.
what they're doing. So I appreciate the 2 hours, man. I really do.
There's his website scrolling across the bottom. Dave, you're going to be in Denver coming up in July at the MUFON Symposium.
At the MUFON Symposium, yeah. I will be speaking about the media and UFOs.
We are gonna connect when you come to Colorado. I'm gonna see you in person. Give you a hug, brother.
All right, brother. You take care.
See you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
All right, bro. All right, everybody. That was Dave Scott, and catch me on 2 hours. Just never seems long enough with Dave. And yeah, it was yeah, I can't wait to be on his show on Tuesday. Check us out. Check us out on Sacred Journeys Within. There's spacedoutradio.com. That's Dave's website if you don't know who Dave is. And yeah, check us out on Tuesday where we flipped a switch and I'm back on his show again. We're going to be talking about psychedelics and the connection between aliens and just getting into probably more of what we talked about tonight. But yeah, appreciate Dave Scott for joining us. Everybody in the chat room, Trev, got some new people. My sister was in here earlier, Linda. Thanks for coming in, Brian, Yenna, Chris. If I miss anyone in the chat room, please forgive me for not mentioning their names. Too much information. Taylor. Yeah, everybody that's supporting this movement, supporting the podcast, supporting Sacred Journeys Within. Thank you so much. I throw up. Here's a PayPal. If you want to buy me a coffee, anything, send over PayPal. Just your support is enough. If you have a few bucks to send the program, that's great too. Appreciate whatever it is. Appreciate the blessings. Appreciate the support. Next week, Jason Quit, followed by Kevin Day on the 12th of June and Ruben Langdon on the 19th. And we have some other special guests lined up for the rest of June and into July. Again, check me out. I'll be up by Denver on July 10th at the Stardust Fest. I'll be speaking at 11 a.m. and we're going to be speaking about my topic is the evolutionary shift of humanity. So we're going to be getting more into that and talking about magic and how we're starting to become magical beings. So check us out, Sacred Dreams Within. If you haven't had a book, if you haven't checked out my book yet, I'm Perfect and So Are You. And is my first book, Find Your Inner Guru, is available on Amazon, or you can go over to the website at Sacred Journeys Within and check those out from in the shop page there. And I will send you an autographed copy of either books. We also have T-shirts. My wife Ella makes some beautiful jewelry. She comes out with a new line every couple months. She makes them by hand. Lots of prayers said over those. But yeah, appreciate the support. We have a retreat coming up. Before I see you guys again, we have a medicine retreat coming up. We have a few people coming out, and I'm going to be spending some time praying with Wachuma and ayahuasca. So, yeah, that's going to happen this coming Thursday and Friday and ending on Saturday. So, yeah, right before I come back on Sunday, I'll spend a couple days in ceremony and hosting some people out here. So, wish us luck. Good vibes are always welcome. And thank you all. Check me out. Thank you all for the support. Check me out next Sunday. Thank you for tuning in to Eagles Nest Podcast. And again, thank you to Dave Scott from Space Radio for coming and bless us with his presence. Blessings, and we'll check you all out later.